back to my pappy's corn liquor stick. Soon as I crossed that Buncombe County line, something in the air blew my podcast up high. It was a wisdom from the chicks in the city sticks, and I knew right then it was gonna be my fix. No need for white lightning to get my start. It's hey Lord, have mercy, Hannah, bless your heart. Wardy, yeah, you know what I mean. It's not strange, take it from me. Wardy, come and listen to see weird mountain gals on the Wardy. Up on Weird Mountain, they've been getting their kicks, jamming on the porch just to hit and mash. Stirring up the pot, that's what they do best. They can dish it out till there ain't none left. W-Y-R-D, yeah, you know what I mean. No, it's not strange, you can take it from me. W-Y-R-D, so come and listen to see weird mountain gals on W-Y-R-D. Well, I finally found my pappy's corn liquor still. Filled up the jug and had to hit the trail. Gotta get back to the cottage in the Asheville woods, to the weird mountain gals neighborhood. W-Y-R-D, yeah, you know what I mean. It's not strange, you can take it from me. W-Y-R-D, come and listen and see weird mountain gals on W-Y-R-D. It's them weird mountain gals on W-Y-R-D. It's them weird mountain gals on W-Y-R-D.
Do you consider yourself normal? Then this is not the show for you. Please go somewhere else. This is WYRD. If it's getting weird, it's got to be the Weird Mountain Gals show. You're listening to Byron and Alicia, the Weird Mountain Gals.
So we're in progress now. Did you know that?
Oh no, does that mean we're progressing? Because that makes me pretty damn nervous.
Well, I think we're progressing. I don't know if we progress much further, the species will be gone. So maybe we need to progress.
Ain't the truth? Ain't it the truth?
It is, yeah. My late night thoughts have been sending me into sci-fi land a lot lately, and
Ah.
the best ideas come from sci-fi land, in my opinion.
Well,
And
I've been in the woods in my
the
dreams.
woods.
Almost every night I'm in the woods. And I'm either following a trail or I start off following a trail and then I go, what's that over there? And then I just take off the trail, which is just exactly what I do in the woods. So it's not in the dreams, it's not unusual. It's just funny that it's like night after night I am in, it's almost always woods that I know.
Mhm.
So that I know, oh, what's coming up now is that little stunted tree that I don't know how it's still alive, but it is. Or what's coming up now is that little creek. So I hope it's not too big that I have to wade through it instead of jumping over it. All that crazy stuff. So I don't know what that means exactly, but it's very comforting.
I think that it means, I think that this is Byron's way of taking care of yourself, maybe
Yeah, I do
consciously or
too.
unconsciously, but because I know how it feels when you get back out in the woods, even if you haven't been there for a while, it's like water in the desert.
Exactly. And it's like home sweet
Home
home.
sweet home. And it's also
Oh,
the
thank
place where you,
you.
yeah.
Yeah, I
And
love it.
I
When
do,
people say things like, "Oh, do you go in the woods? Oh, it's so scary." It's like I have never been in any woods anywhere where I was scared about anything. I was startled when I was about 10 years old because my cousin's husband um, was saying, "Now you be careful in them woods because it's copperhead season now, and if you're not careful, and is it copperheads or rattlesnakes that smell like cucumbers? I always get it confused.
copperheads or rattlesnakes. I've heard it both ways.
And I walked into this little glade, the mountain where I grew up on. I was always up on the mountain by myself, and I walked in. It was so pretty that I went. And when I inhaled, it was all cucumbers. And I thought, well, I guess I'll turn around and head home. But that was more, I wasn't scared so much as I was startled. It
Yeah.
was like, oh, he's just talking about this. I
Yeah.
guess that means snakes. Maybe I'll turn
Go.
around and go back.
Well, we do have an inordinate amount of copperheads in this area. I mean,
I
we
know. And I talk to snake people, and I'm always saying, copperhead, they seem to be just ill. The least little thing will set them off, and then you get a bite. When I've hiked, rattlers they'll show themselves to you, and they'll make a sound. It's like, don't come over here.
yeah.
No, just don't come over here. And you can go, huh? Look, there you are. I think I'm gonna go in the opposite direction of where you are. Thank you for the warning. But I mean, a copperhead will just lay there looking like a stick in the dry leaves
Yeah.
until you step right near it, and it's like, what are you doing here? Get out.
Yeah. Well,
Thanks.
There's a couple of things come into my brain, and that thing number one is this time of year out in the woods is not so bad because, I've said it before, but the skeeters are gone. The biting insects the flying biting insects are mostly gone.
Yep.
The snakes,
Snakes are sleeping.
they're dormant. Now there's snakes that'll be out in the weather for whatever reason, I don't know, but a small, you will occasionally come across them. And the nice thing though is there's so many dry leaves that you can hear them. And then you can hear any snakes or anything going through the woods, no matter how quiet they might try to be, I guess. And even if you do get close to them, they're going to move really slower than usual because of the cooler weather. And that's the truth too. When it gets really cold, they just want to curl up in a ball if they can. So if you see them outside this time of year, most likely they're headed over to some concrete or a stone that's out in the sun.
Yep.
Yeah.
Exactly right.
And so that's something that I think about, and when you're talking about being in the woods this time of year, it's easier to find you if you get lost. That's another thing.
Yeah.
Sound acts differently in the woods, but then just personally, the woods have a personality. To me, when I was a child, I was out in the woods a lot. I spent a lot of time out in the woods, and those woods, they have their own personality. And when you get used to them, you can kind of tell when they don't want you around. When it's time to get out, you can tell. But as far as being afraid of being out in the woods, I've had people ask me that too. And it's like, oh, hell no. I'm much more afraid of living in a city than living out in the woods.
Oh gosh, me too.
Yeah, you
And there
lose
are a lot worse
everything.
that can happen to you in the city, including, I will say, bears. Because a number of times, I mean, I grew up out in the country, so for 18 years of my life, and if I was up on the mountain or up on the land from the time I was 5 on, which I'm guessing is true, so that's 13 years. I saw a bear one time, and I live downtown, and I see bears, well, all the time. Not right now because they're sleeping, but yeah.
Although I think there's been one out and about in Asheville. I saw something on a Facebook page, but I mean, it's not the normal, what I say is the new normal amount of bears that you see. You're right. You do see them.
Yeah, it's crazy. And I'm not scared about bears because I'm sensible about wild animals.
Right. Exactly. Well, and they don't want to see you any more than you want to see them, although I love getting a glimpse of them, but I'm not going to go out of my way to.
No, and they don't want to have to run away from you and waste precious calories.
Right. I mean,
So, I mean, if you get between a mama and her cub, whatever the species is, you are likely to have some trouble. But
I was thinking of a one syllable word. Rhymes with fly. You were likely to what?
I'm telling you, people I think are way more dangerous than any animals.
Absolutely.
Though I would think if I lived in a place that regularly had visits from cougars, mountain lions, catamounts, whatever you want to call them, painters. I grew up calling them painters.
Painters.
I would be very cautious about that because I mean they're an alpha predator and they wouldn't mind taking my skinny ass down and eating me.
Yeah,
if they were hungry.
You don't have a hard shell that they have to bite through.
I ain't got a hard shell. I ain't got no claws. I ain't got teeth worth nothing. So yeah, I sure as hell couldn't bite one.
Well, the way you say it is like that poor painter. He ought to just send you on back. Just nah, not this one. She ain't got.
This one ain't got much to it. They would never take me in the army, would they? Nope. Like, damn, you ain't much to you, woman.
Well, I agree with you about the panthers, but I still would take the woods full of panthers before I would take the city full of humans.
Yes, definitely. And we used to hear them when I was growing up. We would hear painters. Not often, but that was that was in the 60s and 70s.
What if you've never heard one? I don't care who you are, what a badass you might be. The first time you hear one out in the wild, you're gonna get shivers from your head to your toes. You're gonna get chills, at least. I mean, it's not a sound that sounds like it's from this world.
Well, and we should be that way about wolves howling, but we've gotten so kind of domesticated to wolves, and we want to say wolves and all that stuff. But I mean, there was a time when if you heard a wolf howl, you hoped that your big old dogs were taking care of the sheep or the goats or whatever to keep them safe, and you were glad you were in the house because you didn't want to be out there.
You're right. People don't respect them as much as maybe they should. I'm semi-guilty of that because wolves don't usually occur to me out in the woods. I mean, more than just a casual way. I don't make any plans to see a wolf, in other words, but or a panther. But now bear, yes, deer, yes, the common stuff, yes. But in a bear, it'll eat you. You've seen that meme where it's got the or maybe it's a Twix commercial or something, where it's got the one scene where the two campers are sitting on a log beside each other and they've got a Twix and they're saying, oh, it doesn't really matter if it's the left side or the right side. They're both crunchy outside and chewy good inside. And then next frame, you see the two bears beside each other looking down at the two campers sitting on the log together, and they're saying, hey, it doesn't really matter if you take the one on the left.
Well, I think a bear would have to be pretty hungry to attack a human to eat. I mean, a brown bear, our bears. Now, grizzly would happily do that, but I think they'd have to be pretty hungry and pretty desperate to do that.
You know what I think they are is acclimated at this point. Around here, bears are getting acclimated to humans and humans to bears, but bears to human specifically, they associate humans with food source.
Yeah.
Wherever the humans
people are so careless. People are so damn careless.
Yeah. And so they may not think about eating the human, but wherever the human is, there's usually something yummy. And I told you that story about my my friend who went camping in Mills River by himself,
Oh yeah.
and he had a bike, not a car, and bicycle. And yeah, one night a bear got into the campground, and as he was standing up in the tent trying to figure out what to do, being woke up out of a sleep, he hears the bear kind of trying to get into the tent, and I guess he puts his hand back behind him, he's still inside the tent, and he puts it right in the bear's mouth.
Oh,
Yeah, and of course, I guess it scared the bear, and I guess it scared him, and he ran out of the tent and got on his bike, and he drove about 8 miles
pedaled away.
to get to a house of someone that he knew, to get to his brother's house, and because he was just, I guess, flying on adrenaline at that point. But wow, I mean, and Hendersonville used to have some bears that were somehow connected with travel and tourism, or it could be that the way I heard it, it was one of the bears up around let me think, little Switzerland, maybe. Anyway, something to do with travel and tourism. And she had told me a story about putting her hand in the bear's mouth by mistake, and the bear didn't bite it. They were both surprised. What?
They got some big old teeth and claws. I'll tell you that.
Yeah. One way and one thing that's left Appalachia, at least the mountains here, since we were kids, that I'm glad to see gone, is the bear pits and stuff.
Oh no, that was terrible.
It was
terrible.
cool. It was
But
back in the day.
as humans, we've been mistreating bears for 1,000 years.
Yeah. And for anybody who doesn't know what that is, they used to use live animals as roadside attractions to get the tourists to come in and buy their wares. They'd have a bear that danced, but the bear would live his life out in a little cage, or they'd have a big pit dug in the ground, and the bear would live his life out in a pit that he couldn't get out of.
Yeah.
And people would, and then of course they'd have big old signs along the road saying, stop here and feed the bear, or stop here and see a real live bear, etc., etc. And people would stop. And it was cruel. Sometimes they'd keep them in cages, whatever. They also would do that with peacocks. There used to be a fella a couple of counties over who would have dancing chickens. And the reason that the chickens were dancing, though, is because they were standing on a hot plate.
Yeah, that's terrible.
Yeah,
terrible.
It was awful. It was really awful. And I'm sure there was a lot of other stuff like that my mind is blanked out. But yeah,
rooster fighting and dog dog baiting and all that stuff. That was and is still a big thing culturally.
I guess so. I haven't heard of one lately, but I also don't run with that crowd.
No,
I'm happy to say that I don't run with that crowd. And I know that there are other areas of the country that have had things like this go on. I just can't speak about them because I don't personally know them. I don't have any real knowledge, but I know what went on here. I was around for it. And
you and we are big fans of the culture that we come from.
Yeah.
And everybody knows that. Everybody knows that. But it's not a perfect culture.
No.
There's never been a perfect culture. No. And so, I'm happy to speak out against the stuff that is just, it's wrong.
Yeah.
And it doesn't matter if it's been going on for 100 years or 150 years, it's still wrong.
Right. Not every tradition is worth keeping.
Exactly.
And beginning of wisdom is knowing which things to cut out.
Yeah.
But, there is something that I wanted to talk about today, kind of along those lines, because I see less of it. And it's harder to talk about because there's not really a good description that I have of it, but it's a certain attitude that we used to have more of back in the day. And it's kind of I can do this, we can do this kind of attitude. And it would generally, the folks that I knew that would have that attitude would be, women who had to live alone for whatever reason, or maybe it was a family trying to make it on a farm or something like that. So generally it was folks who didn't have a lot of money, but it was an attitude of, we got this, we can figure this out, even if it's brand new, and we'll be all right. And that kind of attitude, it wasn't there was no expectation of a, hey, the government's going to give me something, or somebody needs to come here and fix this, or
Yeah.
that fair way. I mean, it was, this is what's happened, and let's just fix it, let's just get to it.
And
we
let's work together. Let's work together to fix it.
yeah,
So
well,
it
that's
wasn't
back
like
in the day.
I'm gonna be completely independent. This is a terrible tragedy and I'm gonna handle it. Is that people lived in communities, even if it was a rural community where your nearest neighbor was 3 miles away, there was still a sense that we kind of looked out for each other. And I mean, I find that still sometimes. I do. It's not completely gone, but I'm telling you, the the life has been sucked out of a lot of Appalachia.
It
And it
has.
just the spirit is gone. The resilience. I mean, we used to be, just like you were saying, we used to be the kind of people that presented with a problem, they might cobble together a solution that wasn't going to last more than a little while, but they would cobble one together.
Yeah, and what they wouldn't do is expect somebody else to fix it. They
No.
didn't have that expectation that, oh well, it's their problem because it's my problem. They, there was a, I don't know, independent is a good word, but it doesn't really describe it correctly, because there was a sense of, I don't know. I
Well,
don't,
the word I use for it is resilient. There was a resilient quality to the people who lived here, and
that was yeah.
still true somewhat. But yeah, a lot has happened. A lot has happened,
Well,
and we got to figure out how to get that resilience back, because our youngins, the generations that came after us, are suffering,
yeah.
and they're suffering because they feel like they can't fix it. They don't
Well,
know how to fix it.
well, a lot of it I think is because they've never seen it modeled to them.
Exactly. That's exactly right.
It has a lot to do with it, but it doesn't mean that they can't decide how they're going to be and then work at it and get there. I was thinking about exactly what you were saying. It's like, okay, well, it's 2024. If it was 1924 or 1824 and it was this day in January, what would I be doing? And how, how would I be going about it? And so what my thought was, when things are rough and you don't have a lot of technology and you still have to survive, a lot of your time gets put into getting food, making sure it'll last through the winter, finding places for it, making sure you're going to be warm, making sure you're going to have enough to drink, water, potable water, and things of that nature. And then, 50, 100 years later, everybody's got electric blankets and the internet, and we don't think of that stuff. We don't worry about food, because even if we lose our electricity for a few days, it'll melt, and then we'll get some food. So, and if it doesn't, then somebody's helicopter will fly over and drop some down to us, and that would be the worst case scenario. Well, do you see how crazy that would sound to somebody 100 years ago?
Well, because when you say 100 years ago, what would you have been doing? Well, I probably would have been knitting in the
Knitting.
evening, like I'm knitting right now.
Mhm.
And we would have had to make sure there was a low, kind of a smoky fire in the smokehouse, because you would have been still
Something.
smoking the meat that you had killed, either the hogs you had butchered in October, November, or the venison where somebody in the family had gone out and got a deer
Or the bear.
or a bear.
Or the
Exactly.
boar. Yeah, whatever it was. Yes.
So,
Right.
yes, it would have been all about food and survival, but
Mhm.
it would not have been about farming. So, most of what you would be doing would be in the house or in a building. So, if you were keeping the smokehouse going, you'd go out to the smokehouse. It'd be warm in there, smell real good. But you wouldn't have to be out doing hard graft, hoeing and digging and delving and all that stuff. So in a way, winter was easier because you had to just focus on surviving winter.
You might be right about that. I mean, probably physically, I'm sure it was a lot harder. The thing is, there was a mental place that you were at, and that mental place was, I'm in the act of preparing to survive hard times, and that's valid today. You see, people who tell me, well, why are you trying so hard to preserve these things? They're not worth anything. They're just memories. We don't need to worry about killing deer because we're never going to do that again as a society. It's like, okay, you're right. I'll give them that. Maybe we're at this place where we're not going to go back to the way it used to be without electricity and so on and so forth. But the need to survive is still here within the species. And the ability to do so, well, we don't know if we can or not. We know that our ancestors did. So how is it that they did it? And it was an attitude, because you have to be prepared, and you have to know what you want to know what to expect, and then you follow through with it. So when it comes to food in 2024, we may not be hunting down our meat, but that doesn't mean that we can't plan for harder times and do it in a way that works in our society, in our life today. And so it's an attitude, is what I'm getting at.
It is an attitude. And one of the things I promised myself this year was that I would complain less and whine less about things. Because we complain about, oh, it's cold. Well, you know what? It's January. We want it to be cold. Because if it's not cold in January, and if it's not cold in February, and if we don't get any snow, it lowers the water table.
And we're going to be eat up with bugs.
And the insects that usually die because of the cold, all of that stuff, the whole process that nature has laid out for herself is a solid process. And when things interfere with it, as humans often do, then we have to deal with a breakdown in the process.
Right. And one way or another, somewhere along the line, we're going to pay a price for that sort of thing.
Yeah.
One way or another. Oh, I just thought of that. Not the Deborah Harry one way or another, but I thought the Billy Joel, somewhere along the line. Do you remember that?
I do.
Along the line. Yeah, I love that song. I love the piano in that song. Hard song to play. Or for me, it was.
Well, I went down to pay my fuel bill today down on the river.
Yeah.
And I'm telling you, the French Broad is up after that big old spate of rain. And it was so funny because I walked in, and it's the same secretary that is there every time I go in there. And I laughed and I said, people will say to me, oh, I don't know, French Broad doesn't seem like very much of a river. And I just laugh and think, well, you ain't seen it the way we're seeing it today. And it just makes me laugh at there's this thing along the river, there's a park along the river, periodically that thing's going to be underwater, and you just need to know that.
Yeah. And you do. And just be ready for it. And don't be surprised. Have your camera ready. That's what I think. I get photographs. I used to have this rock that I would go to up on the parkway when it was west area, and it had a really beautiful view. It had one of them big old flat rocks that kind of roll down the hills every now and then they'll stay there for 1,000 years, and then they'll roll down a little further. Big old rock. And I used to sleep on it because I don't know why, but I love sleeping on rocks like that. Big old rocks. They get warm from the sun.
Yep.
So
you just like a big old snake.
Well, yeah. Oh, I must have told the story. Yeah. Because I used to go there and nap, and I went there really good restorative sleep. I went there one day with my camera, and there's a great big old snake right there where I usually had my head. And I said, "Well, bye bye, napping rock. I'll miss you, but I'll never lay on you again."
Oh,
So,
funny.
yeah, I mean, I'm not scared of snakes, but I'm not going to get up in there. I think I shouldn't do that. So that's not too bright.
Well, I love to tell the story of the Coalition of Earth Religions has adopted a section of City Street,
Mhm.
and we were doing a cleanup one time, and it was just the opposite of the way it would be with most any other organization. But somebody yelled "snake," and everybody in the group ran towards them instead of away from them, going, "What kind is it? Is it big? I want to see it. Let me see it."
That's funny. That is funny.
And somebody was telling me the other day, I had a meeting with somebody and they said they had run into this little bitty brown snake that was so cold, so cold. And I said, that we call them town snakes because they're so adjusted to living with people, but they look like a little bit like baby copperheads. And so people will put them in jars and try to, make sure they're okay. I hope they don't kill them, but they just they sneak out because they're little. They
Yeah,
can sneak out when it's just marginally a warm day,
yeah.
and catch them something to eat and go back to dozing. um, and
Uh,
she said, "No, this poor little thing was so cold. I picked it up and I just held it in between my two palms until it warmed up enough that it started wiggling a little bit, and then I put it down."
wow. Well, I'm glad that nothing happened that could have, but it's probably what they call a decays brown snake.
That's exactly what it was. And they, out at the nature center, the guy out there said that they're often referred to as town snakes because you find them in town all the time.
Is that the kind of snake that you found that y'all put in the mason jar and down to
Yes.
town to find out what it was?
It was a town snake.
A town snake. Well, I don't know. They also have these little, they call them earthworm snakes, but
Well,
they're
I haven't
snakes,
seen
but
one of those.
yeah, they're like night crawlers really, but night crawlers with a mouth that, looks like a snake's mouth, I guess. But I've never seen one of those. They look a little, yeah. I think they stay underground most of the time. But those little decay snakes, they're everywhere.
They
Everywhere.
are. And when my daughter was a little, because I was determined she wasn't going to be afraid of that kind of stuff, she referred to them as little heads. Mama, mama, it's a little head.
Oh, no. That's so cute. Well, I don't think I really talked about them much around the females in my house because I quickly learned that they were scared to death of snakes. They didn't like them. They didn't want me to like them. And if I also learned that if I told them the snake was in a certain place, that they didn't want me to go to that place anymore because snakes were there.
Well, and if they
So
could get to that place, they'd get the damn hoe and go out and take care of the snake.
well, I believe that most of the time they'd just get whatever man was around to go and take care of them. Or whatever. They might have taken care of them themselves, but all I knew or all I cared about as a young kid was I'm not going to tell the women because they don't like them and they'll make me stay away from them. And, I didn't want to do that unless I decided to. I was a little bit headstrong. I don't know.
No,
It happened.
no, were you?
A little bit, yeah. But I did learn that it was usually safe to tell one of the men in the family that they'd tell me about the snake then. So I quickly learned, I quickly learned who to talk to, who would just tell me what to do about that snake, if it was an okay snake or if it was potentially a poisonous snake or whatever.
Because, in the winter, the air feels dry and
Yeah.
kind of dusty. I've been trying to do some cleaning, so my house is visibly less dusty, but the air is probably more dusty.
What I found was that if I if I sweep and dust and I'm wearing one of those ugly COVID face masks,
A nice N95.
a nice N95, yes. If I can discipline myself to do that, then I can get through dusting without sneezing, usually. Dusting or sweeping.
I'm telling you, COVID was a terrible thing, but to be introduced to the N95s and the other really good masks that have other numbers attached to them, it's great.
Yeah.
Because smelling other people's perfume doesn't make me sick. I just don't like it. I don't like you to wear powder and cologne and whatever deodorant, all that stuff that smells the same.
Yeah.
Oh, it just cloys me up. I can't stand it.
Well,
And
think
when
about it. Yeah.
I wear a mask like that, I don't smell none of that stuff. It's
Yeah.
good.
That is really good. And I think about this, some of these people go out and they've got on a deodorant that has a smell, some body powder with a different smell, some perfume with a smell, some shampoo with a smell, some conditioner with a smell, and if they're a man or whoever, whatever they've cut their hair off with, will have a smell. Their soap will have a smell. All of these fake smells show up. Every bit of makeup that you have has a smell, either on purpose or not. Still has a smell.
Yeah.
So you really are kind of rude and loud about it, I think. Sometimes when you're just, oh, well, this is trendy, this is sophisticated, or I like the way this smells. Well, just because you like it doesn't mean everybody else is going to like it.
That's exactly right.
Had a woman, and it was a sad story. This was a giant phone room, and it was one of my second jobs, and I was in my 20s, and this woman was in her 40s. There was about 50, somewhere between 50 and 100 people in this one room. Okay, it's local too. I'll tell you where it is after we are not recording, but it was a well thought of business. Anyway, this woman would show up dressed to the nines every day, and she eventually, well, she got reprimanded 3 times because she had an odor. And every time she would get reprimanded, she would tell me, because she sat right beside me. And I know she had an odor, but I liked this woman, and I wasn't going to go tell the boss on her or anything. And so I talked to her about it, and I don't know, she just was having some sort of chemical reaction to something.
Mm-hmm.
At what she was so upset about it that she asked me to come to her home and have supper with her and see if it was her home that was causing this. Because she would tell me, oh, I'm washing my clothes with this, and I'm doing this, and I'm taking this many showers, and this and this and this and this.
Huh.
And I went to her home and had supper with her very nice family and her, and there was nothing out of the ordinary that I could spot except for her, and it was so evident. And her
Oh,
family couldn't smell it, I don't think. They were nose blind to it. But she eventually lost her job because of that. And it wasn't because of any other thing, because she was a great worker. I felt so bad for her. I
well,
really
that's
did.
terrible. It must have been some kind of medical condition.
It had to have been. I've never really heard of it since then, but I mean, it had to be her having some sort of chemical reaction to something.
Yeah.
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 Do you
Oh,
remember, since we're on this gross subject of people and their smells, do you remember when there, there was somebody it was a woman, she was having surgery in California somewhere, and when they opened her up, they the people in the surgical room there passed out. A couple of them died. When they opened her up, her body was producing some sort of chloride or chlorine or something that was,
oh my God.
yeah, that was awful. You don't remember that?
I don't. That sounds like an episode of Emergency or one of those
Or
old
in
shows.
search of spontaneous combustion.
Oh,
I was
scary.
scared of that. It was a thing, I thought. But I don't know that I've ever heard of anybody having spontaneously combusted after about 1979. Have you?
No, we don't hear much about that anymore, but it's probably time for it to make a comeback.
You think?
There was a character in one of the Dickens novels, maybe Bleak House, that did that. Spontaneously combusted.
They didn't call it that, obviously, but
Yes, I believe they did.
did they?
I believe they did. Yeah. I will look that up once we're not doing
Huh.
this. Yeah, it was I mean, it's as far back as Dickens, and I'm sure it was before that too.
Wow.
Yeah, it scared me when I was a kid. I would think,
And
oh no, what would happen?
they'll come in and it'll just be a chair and part of my shoe left.
Right, or my left hand, or yeah. And we're talking about woods before, and I've always loved woods, but I will tell you, being in the woods didn't scare me, but in the fall, when we had a dry fall and all the leaves were down, I was always afraid of fire, and I still am.
Yeah.
I'm still very, very cautious about, so that when we had those bad fires this past fall, and it was so dry. Oh my gosh, it was so dry.
Yep.
I still have kind of trigger points about that.
So just when it would get windy. Yeah.
Yeah, windy and dry, and we lived in a wooden house surrounded with woods on three sides. So I would, and I've talked about this before, when I would go to sleep at night, they'd put me to bed, and if I could see orange out the window, an orange glow, I just laid there all night looking to make sure it didn't come any closer.
Mm.
So that's not really being afraid of the woods necessarily, but it is, that was a thing that could happen
That was
growing up. And it obviously is still a thing that can happen.
that's one way that technology is better and has helped us is in putting out fires.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I'll give technology credit for that. But you and I were talking about AI, and I know we talk about it all the time, but don't you
And
think
you're listening to us right now, damn you AI.
well,
What do
yeah,
you think
we're
about
talking to
AI? That's what I think about you.
it. We're talking to it, but it's not talking to us right now.
It's just
Notice
taking
that? Seems a little out of balance, doesn't it? But what's interesting to me is how fast it went from, oh, you and I are talking about, oh, it's coming, we can tell that it's coming, we ate it, we ate it, we ate it, to man, it's everywhere. We just didn't realize it. It's already here.
yeah.
Been here, done that. So
Yeah.
we need to do the Appalachian attitude thing and figure out how we're going to work with it and come out of it on the other side.
Yep.
So
Work with it or work around it.
that's where I come in with the confusion, because I got my friends on the one hand who are tech people, or a lot of them anyway, and they're telling me all of these neat things that they can do now that
Yeah.
actually do sound like they're helpful. And that's really intriguing to me, because I am the girl who, I really did want that robotic companion. Really did. And now the possibility of having a robotic companion, we've already got them. They're just being kind of perfected now by practicing with us,
Right.
if you will. And so there's that part of me that's going, cool. And then the part of me that read Dune, or you name the other sci-fi books that it could have been, that part of me is not nearly as thrilled about it.
Right. Right. Yeah, I've got a really good friend, and he is all about AI. Oh, it's going to be great. It's going to change everything. We're going to be able to put all of the wisdom of the ages onto a thumb drive, and we will all have that. But by then, human beings are going to be so lazy and stupid that what good will the wisdom of the ages do you if you can't actually think?
We could put many things on a thumb drive now, and we're not smart enough to know what the wisdom of the ages is to put on the thumb drive. all we
That's
can
very
do
true.
is gather information. And the more
Yes.
information we have, I believe the easier it is to get confused about it. If you're human, if you're AI, the more information that you have, the more accurate you become.
Mm-hmm.
That's a huge difference. And so there's this part of me that says, well, they could easily overpower us and blah 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 blah. And then there's this other part of me that says, well, if they are advanced, they're not going to want to overpower us.
No, they're gonna want to use us in whatever way they can.
Maybe, and maybe they're just
That's what.
maybe they're not going to need us for anything.
Yeah.
You know,
Well, that might be true too.
maybe they're just going to go on to the mothership or something. I don't know. I'd like to think that. When I said mothership, you were thinking Parliament Funkadelic, weren't you?
Damn it, yes. God. And I don't know if it's just, I'm just in Funky Town today or what, but as soon as you said that, I went, the mothership. Yeah. Yeah.
Got a picture in your mind of Bootsy.
Oh,
Hey,
you
it's Bootsy,
know
baby.
it. You know it. Golly.
But he was quite a performer. I guess he still performs. Do you know? I mean,
I haven't heard, but yes, I'm guessing so. I mean, those old folks, they just keep on, keep on, keep on till
Boot,
they fall over.
Bootsy Collins is who we're talking about.
Oh
And
my
uh,
goodness.
what in the world could I say about Bootsy Collins? I adore him. I adore
Oh,
him.
me too, me too. And
Yeah.
now are you getting ready to look that up now? Because I'm just on the phone. I can't look up and Zoom at the
You know,
same time.
he's still out here. Yeah, he's still touring. It's Bootsy,
Good.
baby.
That is so good.
He is. He
And
says,
I want to talk about that just for a minute. I want to talk about touring because there's this fun thing that is happening that I want to see more and more and more of. And that is the idea of a house concert. I love the idea of, you have some drinks available for people. You might make up a couple big trays of sandwiches, whatever. And you've got somebody who's touring through, musician or musicians that are touring through. And you got enough room maybe in your house to squeeze in 20, 25 people. And you make every one of them give you $10.
mhm.
And then that musician has enough gas to get them to the next place. And I love it. I
I do
love it,
too.
love it.
I built a website for a fella that was houseparty.com is what it was. And there are musicians who only do house parties.
Yeah.
And current residents, we've talked about that. When we are out and really touring, which we will be fairly soon, I'd say. When that happens, we are thinking about not doing bars and stuff so much, but doing mostly house concerts. If you're a patron of the arts, or you can be, let's put it that way, that's the way to do it. Get the band to your home, then you can control the atmosphere and the
Yep.
people who show
Yeah.
up, and you make friends with the band, and everybody wins.
Absolutely. And you get to have a great party with amazing entertainment.
Mhm.
And, I've done it a couple times and I charged a little bit of money. One time I did a whole dinner. I charged a whole bunch of money. But they will pay for whatever you want them to pay for. And then by God, you put out a tip jar and they'll fill that thing up full too, because the experience of being that near a live performer it's amazing. Amazing.
I know
So
it.
I'm putting in my 2 cents for house concerts,
House concerts is it, or house parties, however you want to say it.
however you want to say it.
Yeah, it's I think that a lot of musicians get a good start there. And me as a person, I've played a lot of bars and stuff like that, and they're fine. And I like festivals, and I like bars, and I like all of that. But I love house concerts. You get real memories, and you get to get close to the people who like to listen to you, and it's nice. There is a gal who is a good friend of mine, and she always has her house concerts in the backyard.
Oh
And
yeah,
yep,
nice.
and she had a friend who is a carpenter who came out and built a stage in her backyard. And
That's terrific.
yeah, and it's just you don't even have to have anything close to that. I've also
No, no,
I've
uh-uh.
I've had and been part of many house concerts that happen on porches, in living rooms, just wherever in the back side of somebody's office. I'm a
And
fan.
if you go ahead.
No, I'm a fan. That's all I'm saying.
Oh, well, and if you get kind of into the circuit and who's traveling when, a musician will love you forever if they are traveling to a gig that's going to pay them really well, but golly, they sure would like to have one more little thing to do on the way.
Yep.
And they'll give you such a great concert.
Hmm. Yeah, they actually will. You're exactly right about that. And just some of the best music that I've ever heard in my life have been house concerts. Yeah, and so I've had great. Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up. We went
Yeah.
from Parliament Funkadelic to Bootsy Collins. We didn't talk about George Clinton though.
Oh my goodness.
What can you say? George Clinton is he's an anti-hero for me because
Yeah.
he's hilarious, but I think it's funny, but I don't want to be him. I remember there was some reality show that he had on MTV or something like that, where a whole bunch of people were in the same house together.
Oh my gosh, that's right. That's been a while though, hadn't it?
Yeah, and I'm not a TV watcher, but I love me some Parliament Funkadelic, and I watched that show a couple of times because George Clinton was in it, and the only thing I really remember is he one morning he got up and he went to go get his breakfast, and his breakfast was a big old bowl of Cheerios, and then he took, or not Cheerios, Fruit Loops, the really sweet Cheerios, they're just sugar basically in a loop. And takes this big old box of it, pours it in a big old cake bowl, and then he takes a bag of sugar and just kind
Oh
of,
my God.
and then he puts the milk in it, and then he takes a couple of bites of this sugar on top of sugar, and he breaks a tooth off. And
Ow.
yeah, I wonder why that happened.
Oh my God.
So he had to have tooth surgery or something along those lines. But I'd seen him not too long, not too far before the taping of that show. I'd seen him on in Asheville, and I think they came to the Orange Peel. I think, yeah, they did. They came to the Orange Peel.
That
That was,
makes sense.
yeah.
Well, and we're talking about funkadelic and modern
Parliament
musicians and
Funkadelic.
all of that, but I'm telling you, it's a long tradition of music on the porch in Appalachia, and it's one of our glories.
Oh yeah.
The idea that okay, well, Saturday evening we're gonna be at so and so's house, and y'all just come on out. I'm gonna get some coffee on. There was always coffee. There is always real strong coffee.
Oh yeah.
Sometimes there's alcohol, but sometimes not.
Yeah.
And the people will bring little things to eat, like a little casserole or whatever. And
Somebody will
people
bring a
just,
crock pot of beans or something.
yes, or chili, a big old thing of chili, and just play music and sing music and dance on the porch, all of that stuff. So
Yeah.
it comes naturally to us because we have such a big tradition of that.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I'd love to go and do some of that myself.
Here's what I'll say. I'll bet you that they're still making music in certain places around here that I have been before. And if you'd be interested, this summer we can go. It used to be,
I'd love to do that.
right, then we will now. It'll be a drive.
Well,
It
I've
won't
got a
take much.
couple of friends slash family out in Madison County that
Oh,
will periodically say to me, Saturday night, we're going to be at wherever, whoever's house. So you come on out. We're going to sing a little bit. And, I've just not been able to do it because I've either not been in town or I've been home for 3 days and I haven't even been able to get through all my damn laundry. So
Hey,
it's something, um, I've got a bunch of friends out there that do that.
cool.
And our buddy Judy Rhodes,
Oh yeah.
she's been saying lately, you need to come out. We need to play some music and sing. That'd be good. So I want to put that in my, not my to-do list or my whatever that is, bucket list, or I just want to do it because I know it would give me pleasure,
Yeah, it
make
will
me
be a
happy.
pleasure. That's that stuff makes me happier than almost anything I can think of. Truth, that's a truth. I love it so much it's not even funny. It's like having a conversation without words when you're doing making
Yeah,
music on the porch with people. And
yeah.
it's also just I don't know. It's just great. So yeah, I encourage anybody, whether you're out in the country or in the city, go find the musicians that are privately playing. They usually sit in a circle because that way they can see each other or stand in a circle. And don't be surprised if there's not a lot of conversation. There'll be some music until they have to take a break for a minute or two. And even then, somebody's going to still be playing all the way through. So get your ear balls ready, as they say, and go relax and enjoy yourself, and just know that that's entertainment is free, and it's some of the best stuff there is.
It is, and it becomes then not entertainment, but just another rich part of your culture.
Yeah, I guess so. It's like breathing. Yeah,
But
if you
but
don't do it, you're going to miss it. That's for sure.
I still want musicians to get paid. I'm not saying they shouldn't get paid because they should.
They
But
should.
sometimes with a whole gaggle of people together, they ain't there to entertain. They're just there to sing and play and
Yeah,
feel
that
what that feels like.
that's the stuff that they live for. So many times through the years, I've interviewed or read an interview or talked with a touring musician who's basically said, well, we don't get paid to play on the stage. We get paid to practice and to get in the car and drive and to set our instruments up and to break them down again. But the playing on the stage is the good things that we would have done for free.
Yeah.
So many times I've heard so many musicians say that a lot, just, and it's true. It is
Well,
true.
my friend Suge that was here, when was that? At the winter solstice. She said she was grown up, I guess, and she realized that she could, for her profession, drive all over the place and play her music for her friends. And that's what she does.
Mm-hmm. That's the
Now,
way to look
she
at it.
gets paid pretty darn well because she's a hot ticket in the pagan community. But you can tell that when you go to a concert of hers that she's just there to play music for her friends, and you are her friend.
Yeah, if you're
She
sitting
might
there,
never not have known you, but now you're her friend. I
yeah,
love that attitude.
I do too. I do too. And I believe it's the way to do it. But right now, my attitude is practice some more, practice a little more, go to record it. We're doing a lot of that. And so that's kind of my attitude is get ready, get ready, get ready. And it's been fun. I love to practice. So it's a good thing for me.
Well, and y'all are such a good crew. You're a fun group of people.
We like each other. That's it.
Yeah.
We'll
Boy,
never
doesn't
have
that
a good
help?
VH1 episode or whatever, behind the music. You remember that? That was
Yeah.
another show where they talk about, well, I threw a chair at his head and then we made a Grammy award winning album. And yeah, we're never going to have that interview because we like each other. There's not enough drama.
I threw a chair at him, and then
Yeah, yeah. So, but we are at that stage where uh, people who've heard us for the first time, they pretty much always will say something along the lines of, wow, y'all have been playing together a long time. It's true.
yeah.
It's true. Our yeah, it's true. And that's fun for me. Well, I'll tell you what, I've enjoyed talking to you. We we need to find out what the other one's going to be cooking for supper. So,
Oh my gosh. Well, Wednesday is grocery store day. And
yeah.
y'all, we're recording this on a Wednesday.
Mhm.
So I went in today. I saw a cooking show on Monday. And
Yeah.
this woman, I watch the show all the time, Lydia. She's a little Italian woman. She cooked a beef roast with carrots and taters and some other stuff. And when I went to the grocery store today, I told Joe, we're going to get a beef roast. And he went, what? I said, yeah,
Aha.
you saw that thing on Monday with Lydia. Man, that thing, it was mouth watering. And I said, and do you remember the last time we had a beef roast? And he said, I don't. It's been at least a year since we've done that.
Oh,
I
wow.
said, and I said, it's going to cost the earth to buy a beef roast. It just is. But we will eat on that thing for a while. So I went into the grocery store and I looked around and looked around. And what got me started is the price of peas. So I was going to get some frozen peas because I'm out of them.
Okay.
And a little tiny, I bet it was 6 or 8 ounces of peas was $3.50.
Wow.
I am not, the day has not come when I'm going to pay $3.50 for a damn bag of peas. And then I said, all right, it's time to get the beef roast. So we got the beef roast. And I mean, it wasn't obscene. It wasn't an obscene amount of money, but it was like $14. It was a lot.
Well, you'll get a lot of meals out of it, though. And
We'll
that's
get a
true.
lot of meals out of it and a lot of delight out of it because it's going
Yeah.
to taste so good.
Oh,
And
yeah.
I got taters and got some fresh carrots and some greens that I'm going to throw in around that
Yeah.
thing and roast that sucker up. Woo!
I went the opposite way with my roast a couple of weeks ago. Instead of doing the carrots and potatoes, I turned it into soup and all of that. I did the
Yeah.
mushroom gravy thing.
Mmm.
Oh, it was good. It was so good.
I've got a big old ham bone in the freezer that I need to get on that, but we're gonna have beef roast first, and then we'll have a
Mm.
ham soup.
Yeah, then you get the beef bone and you make all kinds of soup and stuff with that.
Now, this is a shoulder roast, so it does not have a bone in it.
Oh, it's very nice. Well,
Yeah, it's real fancy.
the assumption being that if you can afford one, you don't need the bone
I guess.
because the
Well,
bone
so
is there for
tonight
health.
I'm gonna make some sautéed cabbage. We're gonna have a big salad.
Mm.
Maybe have some sausages in that sautéed cabbage.
Mm.
We've been trying to eat pretty healthy.
It sounds like you are eating pretty healthy.
Yeah, we're being pretty good about it.
Well,
But I am going to saute that cabbage in bacon grease, so we ain't that healthy.
that's all right though. So I've got that thing that chops for me.
Yeah.
I was counting the other day. I had an entire thing of celery, and then I had an entire 2 big onions, and I chopped them up into tiny little pieces
Woo.
in less than 5 minutes with that thing.
Oh my gosh.
You just
Your mama done good.
She did, and it didn't hurt my hand or anything. I don't even know what you call that, but she got it on QVC.
Oh.
Yes, and so anyway, it's not like a pampered shell. I don't think it was all that expensive, is what I'm saying. There are some things out there that are super expensive that will do the same thing, but this wasn't, and it's like a little lawnmower. It is, you just go, and there you go. You just
I
chop
like
up
it. Good
half
for
an
her.
onion. Yeah.
What's
Let's
she
see.
doing?
How's she doing? She's doing really good, actually.
Good.
Yeah. She's doing real good. As far as I can tell, she's been working on house projects, and she's found a phone now that she likes, and just all kinds of you know, mom stuff.
That's great.
Yep. Yep. She's getting used to the idea of having a device that will help her out, like a like a device like you and me talk about.
Mm-hmm.
And so So that's been something I didn't know if she would ever get used to it or not, but she appears to be ready. So yay.
That is great.
Yeah, I'll be setting her up probably in the next week or so. So yep.
I'll be wanting to hear all about it.
Yeah, well, you will, I'm sure.
Because
So
I'm her biggest fan. I've never met your mother, but I'm her big fan.
well, she knows that you exist in the world. She does.
Mhm.
I speak to her all the time, and I'll mention your name. She knows that the cottage exists and all of that. Yeah, she definitely does. She may not know every detail about you, but
Who does and who would want to?
well, I get that. Yeah. Who does? Nobody knows every detail about you, or you wouldn't.
No. And
Yeah.
I'm telling you, you wouldn't want to. It's not very interesting. I'm not very interesting.
Well, I don't know why you say that because you
Because
are.
it's true.
Well, to you because you're you and you're used to you.
So I interrupted you when you were saying what you're going to make for supper tonight. You chopped up onions and
No, I have no idea what I'm going to make. That's why I wanted to hear what you were going to make.
oh. Well, when in doubt, I just saute everything in a little bit of olive oil.
And then throw something piece of meat on it, right?
Well, sometimes I don't. It just depends on my mood.
Well, I'm not sure. I may make turkey salad because I've got a turkey breast in there that I made the other day.
Oh, yummy.
I may make some turkey salad tonight and let that be supper.
Well, and I've got people coming over for a meeting at 5 o'clock from my neighborhood.
Oh, okay.
So I need to either feed Joe beforehand or have everything ready to feed him because
Yeah.
it's not going to last long. We're going over the year-long calendar and deciding meetings and stuff.
Gotcha. Well, okay. Well, keep me posted on all of it, if you want, and we'll figure something out.
Yes, and let's give a shout out to our weirdlings.
Oh, yes.
They're doing pretty good, it seems like.
I think so. I haven't spoken to a lot of them very, very much in the last couple of weeks, not as much as I usually do anyway. So I hope everything's fine. I'm sure it is. I may I may put a cat dog photo in there.
Hey, good idea.
Yeah, that I took it. I instantly thought about them, and I don't really know why, except that the weirder the picture, the more I think of them, I guess. They would understand the picture.
I thought of them today because it is National Peculiar Peoples Day.
Yeah.
And I thought, well, I tell you, us and the weirdlings we are a group of very peculiar people.
We are, but we are capable. Just like
yes, we are. By golly, we are capable. We are tough and resilient.
We are tough and resilient. So we're kind of all honorary Appalachia, even if we're not Appalachia.
Some of us aren't.
Mm-hmm. And some of us are. Anyway, I love all of them.
Well, you take care of yourself, Mrs.
Yes, and you. And
I will.
Give me a holler this week.
I may actually do that because I ain't gonna be up to my hoo-hoo in working my behind off.
Well, there's stuff we can do and places we can do. Wait,
stuff I love
we can do and places
the idea.
Okay. All right.
Y'all be good.
I'll see you soon, Miss Byron.
Yeah, because I still got your Christmas present, Missy.
I'm looking at yours, so.
Bye.
Hey, thank you for spending your time with us here at Wyrd Mountain Gals. We sure do appreciate it. I know time is the most important thing we have, so I promise that if you take your time to listen to us, we'll take our time to continue to be weird. Many thanks to Sunslice Records for all the help. We couldn't do it without you, Craig. Check out our social media for information, community, or a few laughs. WYRD Mountain Gals.